Greg Hendrick here, bringing you another Business Freedom Conversation post. So the title of this one is Cash is King. Isn't it always? So what's happening is, and I think everybody needs to take note of this, particularly small business people need to kind of follow what the big boys are doing. Companies are boosting cash faster than they did during the pandemic. Let me show you a quick slide here. So look at the years. Here's before the pandemic. Look at the increase in the pandemic. 21 it went up. 22 it's about the same. Look at the huge increase here in 2023. So what's happening here? So what's happening is that there's a 5% interest rate on money market funds. Facebook in 2023, their income on their cash portfolio was 1.6 billion. Google's parent, Alphabet, their profit increased 78%. In other words, their profit from interest on their cash portfolio increased 78% to 3.9 billion. Alphabet's got a lot of cash. I can only imagine how much money Apple is making, because aren't they sitting on something like $700 billion or something in cash? Companies hold 3.6 trillion in cash. That's an 11% increase from 2022. And companies are parking cash in money market funds, which jumped 22% at the end of 23. Let me show you another slide. Look at this. So what happened is money market funds jumped 22% at the cost of non-interest-bearing checking accounts declined by 20.1%, and then other deposits and interest-bearing checking took up the slack to make up the whole difference in where the money went. So money market funds are attractive because they're more liquid than CDs, and when interest rates decline, they tend to decline slower than treasuries or CDs or other items. Non-interest-bearing checking accounts, which I just showed you, dropped 20%. The average rate on interest-bearing checking accounts is 3.03%. So the big movement is into either of those. People probably keep the money in interest-bearing checking accounts for the convenience of not having to have a one-day in settlement to get it over from the money market. Consider that the Treasury Department is going to have to roll over almost 8 trillion. So last year, they made a decision of all these maturing bonds to put them in short term. 30% of the massive portfolio, the $34 trillion portfolio that the Treasury Department holds, is in 1 year or less maturity. And the problem that's happening now is that they're trying to hit the bond market in 2024 for almost 8 trillion. And what's happening is that there isn't enough investors to take up the slack, and that's why treasuries are going up, and that's why you're seeing in this last week the stock market tanking, financial instruments yields up, stock market down. And this has nothing to do with the Fed or anybody else. It's the fact that the government spends money like a drunken sailor. Remember, 1 out of $4 that the government spends is borrowed. So not only do they have to roll over old stuff, but they need 1.7 trillion for the current administration's budget in 2024. And what's happening is they're starting to affect the financial markets. Now, what does this mean to you? It means to you that you need to get your house in order. And if the big boys are putting cash like this, they're expecting something to happen. What do you think would happen if investors couldn't roll over some of the treasuries? That means the government has the choice of printing money or defaulting, and they'll probably print money. What do you think that's going to do to inflation? Now, holding cash isn't a very good thing for inflation, but it's also going to dramatically affect money supply and liquidity. And the Treasury Department has been, the Fed in particular, has been reducing the money supply since 2022. And that's big numbers every month. And what this means to you is you have some money because you may be looking at something happening. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if the big boys are socking away this much cash and making this much money on their cash, They are part of the larger picture. You need to get on board with all that. I have an item for you. Accumulating your cash is one of the 9 items you can do. It's not always easy, but there's techniques that can help you do it. I have the Stagflation Success Playbook. I'm putting a link on this post. Get it. And if you have any questions about the 9 items, send me a message or something. But this is kind of the canary in the coal mine. You need to start accumulating cash because the financial markets, I think, are going to have a very volatile and rough ride over the next 12 months, particularly while the government tries to roll over $8 trillion and borrow another one. You realize that that's $9.7 trillion. That's a massive amount of money, and that they need that by the end of the year, or they have to print money. And what happens when they print money? Massive inflation. So this is Greg Andrup, Business Freedom Conversation Post. I'll catch you on the next one.